All right, we all think we know the story of Richard III, right? The evil king, the missing princes in the tower. It's one of history's great dramas. But what if the official story is just that, a story? Today, we're digging into a wild new theory that says we've been looking in the wrong place all along. Forget the throne room. To solve this mystery, we need to follow the money.
So let's just start with this idea. What if one of the most pivotal moments in English history wasn't really about royal bloodlines and claims to the throne? What if it was all about a powerful corporation trying to dodge a massive company-killing audit? And what if killing a king was, at the end of the day, just a business expense?
You know the tale. For over 500 years, it's been the ultimate Gothic horror story. King Richard III, the wicked uncle, steals the crown from his nephew, the boy king Edward V. He shoves him and his little brother into the Tower of London, and poof, they're gone, vanished forever. And look, that narrative has stuck around for a reason. It's an incredible drama full of ambition and betrayal. But the source material we're looking at today argues that while everyone was focused on the drama in the court, the real power players weren't wearing crowns. They were working down at the docks, in the counting houses. So let's do that. Let's pivot away from the palace and head down to the wharfs. Because according to this research, the folks really pulling the strings weren't dukes or earls. They were an ancient, incredibly wealthy merchant family known as the Gardiner Syndicate.
First things first, that name, Gardiner. The source is really clear on this. We're not talking about people who tend flowers. No, this is interpreted as guardian, as in the guardians of the gates. They were the wardens who controlled the entire flow of goods, trade, and money moving through London on the River Thames.
And these guys were not new to the game, not even close. This timeline claims there's an unbroken thread of their power stretching all the way back to Roman Britain. They weren't just some powerful family in the 1480s, they were a permanent part of the English power structure, a kind of logistical deep state that was there long before the Normans even showed up. Think about it like this. This wasn't just a business. The source calls it a country within a country. They had it all vertically integrated. They controlled the sheep, the mills that processed the wool, and the ships that took it to Europe. They were in bed with the Hanseatic League, the corporate superpower of the Middle Ages. They were so essential that even invaders like the Vikings and the Normans couldn't get rid of them. They just had to make a deal. So you have to ask, right? If this syndicate was so powerful and so entrenched, why on earth would they risk everything to bring down a king? Well, this theory says the motive had nothing to do with wanting a crown. It was all about stopping a financial apocalypse. And it all comes down to this number, £40,000. Now, in the 15th century, that is an absolutely astronomical sum of money. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars today, maybe even more. This is the amount the source claims the syndicate had been skimming from the crown's biggest cash cow, the wool trade. And the bill was about to come due.
Now, evidence for this massive fraud comes from records just like this one, from the Hanseatic League's own archives. It talks about huge quantities of wool just disappearing from the official books at the Staple of Calais, which was the crown's main customs house. And this specific entry ties a Gardiner to £15,000 worth of so-called lost sacks. And here's the ticking clock. Richard III wasn't just any king. He was known as a reformer, a numbers guy. And he was planning a full-blown audit of the whole Calais operation. An audit like that would have blown the lid off the syndicate's decades of fraud. It would have bankrupted them. Their entire empire was hanging by a thread. Okay, so if this is all true, how could a conspiracy this massive stay hidden for more than 5 centuries? Well, the researcher argues that the evidence was always there, just scattered across dozens of archives, hidden by something as simple as people spelling names differently. And now they claim to have found the key to unlock it all. It's called Sir William's Key, and it's described as this proprietary forensic cipher. Basically, it's a tool that uses linguistic analysis to take all the dozens of different ways a name might have been spelled in medieval times, when spelling was all over the place, and connect them into one single person or entity. It makes a hidden chain of evidence suddenly visible. And this slide shows you exactly how it works. You see all these different names, Gardiner, Gardiner, even Velsar. To a historian, those could all be different people, but the key collapses all that noise and identifies them as one single entity, the Gardiner Syndicate. All of a sudden, a bunch of random, disconnected records start telling one continuous story. So what did this key uncover? The source lays it out like evidence in a courtroom. So let's look at Exhibit A. This is what they claim is basically a receipt for the murder weapon used on the princes. This is a real record from the Tower of London's own issue book, and look what it says. It documents 2 poleaxes, freshly made in the workshop of William Gardynyr, a skinner and a major player in the London merchant guilds. And where were they delivered? For use inside the tower. And the date? July 13th, 1483. That is the exact time the princes were last seen alive. A key syndicate member is now linked to weapons delivered to the tower at the most critical moment.
All right, on to Exhibit B. If the poleaxe receipt is the weapon, this next piece is presented as the motive and the confession, all in one. It's a hidden payment, scribbled in the margins of an Abbey document. What you're looking at here is a transcription of a handwritten note. It explicitly mentions expenses concerning the boys in the tower, and it says they were paid by none other than Richard Gardiner, the head of the syndicate. The source presents this as the absolute smoking gun, proof that syndicate money was being used to handle the problem of the princes. So the princes are gone. The syndicate is halfway there. But the man who ordered the audit, King Richard III himself, is still on the throne. The final entry in this bloody ledger, according to the source, would have to be written on the battlefield. So who actually killed the king at the Battle of Bosworth Field? The official history is pretty vague. It just says he was surrounded by his enemies and cut down in the chaos. But the ledger's version? Oh, it is shockingly specific. It names a single man. Not a noble, but a commoner, a member of the Gardiner Syndicate. And this incredible claim is apparently backed up by this quote from a Welsh chronicle written at the time. It's an eyewitness account that flat out names William Gardynyr, the very same guy whose workshop made those poleaxes for the tower, as the man who personally struck down King Richard. And what was his reward for this service? Something that had never happened before and has never happened since. William Gardynyr, the skinner from London, was knighted right there on the spot. The source hammers this point home. He is the only commoner in all of English history to be knighted on the field of battle. It's framed as the ultimate payment for services rendered. So let's just do the final accounting. Let's look at the bottom line. Richard III was dead. The terrifying audit of the Calais wool trade was immediately cancelled by the new king, Henry Tudor. The syndicate's multi-million-pound fraudulent business was safe. And within a generation, a Gardiner rose to become the Bishop of Winchester, one of the most powerful jobs in England, giving him control over the source of all that wealth. It was a complete and total victory. So we're left with this one final, kind of chilling question. This entire theory, pieced together from financial records and dusty archives, suggests a massive corporate conspiracy that resulted in the murder of a king. And if a story that big can stay hidden for 500 years, just because of how people spell the name, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other truths are still buried out there, just waiting for someone to find the right key?